Hello and welcome back to The Den. My name is Dylan, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of my Star Wars ranking. Last episode, we did all the films and TV shows of the current canon, which is 23 projects. That includes 12 movies and 11 other projects. And so initially, that was just going to be it due to simplicity's sake. I pretty much wanted to make a simple and clean video to just kind of talk about the films and shows that are kind of currently necessary for every show that's on Disney Plus. But one of your comments actually made me change my mind on part 1, so I wanted to actually just go ahead and kind of rank out the rest of the remaining projects of Star Wars. Before we begin, if you haven't noticed on the ranking board, there is no Last Jedi just yet. That's because a lot of comments on my last video made me change my mind about where the placement should be. After a lot of debating with myself, I think it is just going to go at the end of A rank because I really love it, but every other project in that row is way better than The Last Jedi. I'm just going to place it behind Rebels and leave it there. Also, on my last video, I kind of made a disclaimer where I wasn't going to talk about the Ewok movies. That was part of the miscellaneous projects that I wasn't going to talk about. I went ahead and placed them on the ranking board. Caravan of Courage is the first Ewok movie, and I think that it is alright. It just seems like a weird kids spin-off of Star Trek, actually. And for the second Ewoks movie, I placed it in F because I think it overall fails at being a Star Wars movie, at being an entertaining movie at that. Speaking of F, you notice that this ranking has a letter grading system. The last video I did had words associated with the ranking. That's just because this is a different template, so we're just going to be changing it up from there. And now, without further ado, this is every Star Wars film / show ranked, part 2. And you notice on this template, there is a few shows that actually haven't come out yet, so it's kind of future-proof in that regard. So I'm already going to have it be here, because they just aren't out yet. But I do really want to watch them. So I'm glad that they're here so we can kind of talk about them. The Acolyte seems like a really fun pre-Skywalker saga show, so I can't wait to see what happened in the past. You know, that's going to be very interesting to figure out. And Tales of the Empire seems like a fun little extra tidbit show. So, I mean, those are always fun. I don't have too much high expectations for these kind of shows. I just want to get an animated Wikipedia entry. I think that's going to be it for all the shows that haven't come out yet, so let's go ahead and get on with the other rankings. Next we have Young Jedi Adventures. If you don't know, this is like a Disney Junior type of show, or it's like a preschool type of education programming. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put it in completely not my thing. Where Resistance was kind of my thing because it was still like a younger kid show, but it was more of an action show. This is straight up just a, you know, Nick Jr. type of kids show. There's not going to be anything for me there. So next we have Galaxy of Creatures, and I don't even know what that is. Sorry. Next is Star Wars Galactic Pals, and I'm gonna think that this is totally not my thing. I'm assuming that because I haven't seen this, and it sounds like another preschool type show, so I'm gonna place it there. So no hate. Again, same with Young Jedi Adventures. No hate to those shows. Literally, it's just not my thing. Next is Forces of Destiny. I'm going to give this one a D because I actually really like the idea of this, the concept of this. It's one of those animated Wikipedia entries that I was talking about. I kind of like those because they're quick little short stories that give that little specific tidbit of a character or an event that fleshes out the backstory. But with this, it was very poorly done in terms of animation, and the voice acting was kind of half-assed. And so that's why I'm putting an D there. It could have been a lot better. I was expecting more to come out and was expecting the animation to get better, and it never did, so oh well. Next we have Galaxy of Adventures, and this one I'm going to straight up give an F to. These are even shorter than Forces of Destiny. They give no extra value to any of the characters or stories that they're portraying. The only thing going for it is the animation. So with this, it has better animation, bad stories. With Forces of Destiny has good stories, bad animation. So it's a good double feature, I guess, in that regard. I really wanted Galaxy of Adventures to be sort of an anime of Star Wars. And so I kind of hope we still get that someday. And I'm not talking about Visions. The Visions is like a completely different thing. I mean like where they adapt past Star Wars stories into anime. They did that in a manga form in the 90s, and those are really cool, and I would love to see those even adapted into an anime. Next is Zen, Grogu and Dust Bunnies. I'm giving this one an F as well, unfortunately, because this was hyped up to be the Lucasfilm Studio Ghibli crossover moment of the year, and it's literally a 5-minute sketch doodle animation of Grogu and some dust bunnies that look like the spike enemies from Kirby. So I really don't understand what the purpose of this project was, what the point of the partnership was for. It really was a waste of hype and a waste of time. Next is Star Wars, the holiday special. This is going to be a really hard one to place, because I actually don't think that this fails overall. Not like the other projects on the fail list. Each of these don't live up to a certain aspect of Star Wars. Whereas the holiday special, it kinda does, because it expands upon the Wookiee lifestyle. We just get most of the special in their native language without subtitles, so it feels like we're at home with them in a certain weird regard. And we're watching these weird TV specials with them, or just like clicking through the channels with them, and sometimes the Empire is invading, and sometimes we see Luke, Han, and Leia, you know? So it's like, this is the most Star Wars thing that's on this fail list, so I really have to put it in the D category. But it is better, I think, than Caravan of Courage. It really isn't that awful. The problem is that it's just really freaking boring. And a lot of the side segments have nothing to do with Star Wars or the world. The Cantina Ballot that B. Arthur does is literally the only like segment that is remotely Star Wars related. Everything else was just so boring that it doesn't even feel like we're in this world anymore, because we get sidetracked from it so much. And so when Han comes back to Kashyyyk to save Chewbacca's family and save Life Day, it finally feels like Star Wars again. And I love the Life Day ceremony, actually. I love that the idea of this Wookiee holiday is being celebrated. It is very Star Wars, and Life Day is incorporated into the current canon now, so I mean, part of this to me, in like a certain kind of fan edit way, this is canon to me in some regard. So I know, another hot take, sorry about that, sorry, but it's really not that bad. A true fan has seen the Star Wars holiday special more than one time. Next we have Clone Wars, the micro series. I actually love this so much. It's going into S tier. I might be biased in a certain regard for this one because I caught it live during episode 2 and episode 3 on Cartoon Network, both volumes. It was such a great lead up into episode 3. It was so much hype. I think it shows vignettes of all the Jedi in very creative ways. Even though it is a kid's project and it doesn't seem to be that high of a budget, the writing is incredible. You actually do get to see Anakin's ceremony into becoming a full-fledged Jedi Knight. That is just one of the biggest moments in canon that we have not seen besides this series. So honestly, just for that, it's one of the biggest selling points for me. Because I really love those little tiny Wikipedia entries in these cartoons. Jumping back a bit, I forgot that I wanted to mention the faithful Wookiee after the holiday special, because it is last on this ranking list, and I wanted to talk about it after that, but I forgot. But I wanted to rank this one somewhere up here, I think, in the C category, just because the animation is just so freaking wonky and the actors are a little off model. But it is actually a really good precursor to how the Droids cartoon would look, because C-3PO and R2-D2 are almost identical in character design. However, I'm putting it on C because it is just too short. I know that this was made before Boba Fett's final colors were decided, but I just do not like how he looks in this at all. I love that he's riding a dinosaur. I think that's so silly. That is so like Marvel Comics, Star Wars of them to be doing. And overall, I just think it's really silly. It's actually a really fun first encounter with Boba Fett. It shows that they've crossed paths before. So I like it in that regard, and so that's why I'm giving it a C. I don't think it's the best segment of the holiday special, but I do think it's the second best at least. And speaking of droids, the problem with droids and also Ewoks is that I haven't seen these cartoons since I was a kid, like probably before I was 12. And so I had a couple of VHS tapes of these shows, and so I watched them quite a few times, and not to the extent of any of the movies or any kind of other cartoon tapes that I had at the time. Because I just thought they were just way too silly, and the stories weren't that intriguing. I found myself dozing off a lot from these tapes, and they were just good shows to just have on in the background, just noise. And this was before I had cable too, so I mean, like, once cable came into our house, I just forgot all about these tapes. I don't have them anymore either, so I mean, just goes to show you how much I cared about this show. So honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick it in D rank. And you know, while we're at it, honestly, I'm just gonna go ahead and just put Ewoks in D rank too. Because I think this applies to that show as well, what I'm saying, because both were made around the same time, and both were made to cash in on the franchise and try to make extra merchandise to make extra sales. You know, it was all business related, and so they didn't last that long, unfortunately, and so they didn't catch on nearly as much as they thought they was going to. And so just, you know, they just kept making toys of the movies. But I think Ewoks really failed more so than Droids, because I think it was trying to cash in on the Care Bear craze. Where Droids seemed like an earnest idea for a spin-off to the Star Wars franchise, Ewoks felt like the cynical offspring of that idea. And unfortunately, I'm going to be ending it on a low note. I'm sorry about that. I didn't even plan to end it that way, but that's my ranking completely. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about Star Wars again. I really appreciate it, and I love doing this. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you get notified the next time I put a video out like this. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.